Good morning, everybody. Hubert Johnson here with Taxes Made Easy. I was doing some prep work for today's show, and there's a lot of news out there. Again, we have April 15th coming up very quickly in less than 2 weeks. But it's interesting when I talk about a topic and then other things pop up, and I ran across an interesting topic or article talking about how scary it is to prepare your tax returns, especially for younger generations, but even older people. I talk to them all the time. People procrastinate. People stress out about it. How do I do this right? And again, with all the scams out there, I came across one where this was the tax preparer that ripped people off. But we're going to really dive on that. How to prepare your taxes without all the stress. That's been a classic thing. But we'll be right back after the break and dive in. Welcome back, everybody. And I think I figured out the whole lighting thing. I just need to have the light on my face, turn off the backlight so you can see me better. We can have a better discussion. But again, like I said, there's a lot in the news today. So we're just going to kind of dive right in before we get to our main topic. Um, First one, again, the IRS is continuing to warn people part of their dirty dozen scams that they're seeing. And this is one I haven't seen before, but again, it's because we don't directly set up online accounts for our clients or for taxpayers. You need to do that personally. It's your personal information. We do get a lot of personal information, but setting up an online account, you should have that password. You should set up whatever PIN. We don't want to touch that because that should be just you, and nobody else should be helping you with that except for a trusted family member. When I say trusted family member, make sure it's someone that has your interests at heart, that's not going to rip you off. Sometimes you can get surprised. But again, this is a new scam that the IRS came out, and these are people offering to set up your account. So again, this is third-party scammers posing as helpful third parties. We're here with a nonprofit. We're going to go help set up this IRS online account for you, which is frustrating in that there are plenty of people that need help, plenty of people that have struggled online. They struggle dealing with passwords and setting things up, and it can be very helpful to have someone help you through that. But these scammers, when they do this, they're getting your social security number, they're getting your address, they're getting your phone identification, they're getting all kinds of personal information on you that they turn around and sell. And they also use that to file fraudulent returns on your behalf, obtain loans, open credit card accounts. It gets bad. So I think this is, again, a lot of this information coming from irs.gov is very helpful in the news section. So steer clear of anybody offering to help you set up your online account. That's something that you should do personally. I mean, we're a law firm here. We have fiduciary responsibilities. My bar license is on the line if I rip people off. And so we don't even want to touch it. And if a law firm doesn't want to touch it, you can probably go into an IRS building from an IRS representative and try to get some help and guidance, or you call them and have someone walk you through it. There are helplines there to help guide you through it, but do not give them your personal information. Again, when I am doing power of attorneys, I have to ask for some of the same information. But again, you're sharing it with an attorney, with a law firm. I do not want to know what's on your online account. That should be something that just you or immediate family members know to help you. So the next article, this is actually dealing with another issue that people are talking about, and this has to do with the earned income tax credit. So they're still fighting, and this is from the Wall Street Journal. They're still fighting over whether or not to expand the earned income tax credit. And to do that, they're going to cut out some business tax credits. And the House passed it, and it was mainly passed by the Democrats and about half of the Republicans as part of this latest bill. But again, it's kind of stuck in the Senate. People don't know if they're actually going to get it or not. So there's two veins of thought here. If you file your taxes now, or if you already filed them, and then they increase the tax credit, you can amend your return and get the increased credit. If you wait, then any balances owed will have to be paid by April 15th. So I would just go ahead and file your return. If they do change it, hopefully they just automatically make that change, or you can go and amend your return. But who knows what the Senate is going to do. They're talking about it. There's some political pressure to do that. So I don't know if that's going to happen or not. So I would just act normally and get your tax returns in. If they change things, again, we'll get the word out to you. Next, this is an interesting one, talking about robocall tax scams, and I'm trying to move through these fairly quickly so we can get to our main topic. But this is WTOP News, and then this is not a long. Well, I guess it's got some things, but it talks about robo scams, and I'm going to go ahead and share this article because this is stuff I didn't even know about. And then here we go. This is from a local news station, WTOP News. It's talking about more than 1.5 billion. So Transaction Network Services analyzes 1.5 billion calls a day, and they've already received 400,000 tax-related robocalls in the DC area. So what they do, and this is their concern, is when you get a robocall. First of all, the IRS does not use robocalls. Any CPA or tax preparer isn't going to use robocalls. So you hear robocall, hang up. There are some legitimate companies that use this, but there's a lot of scammers using this as well. So one of the things they focus on, they're trying to get you to respond. They go and I've been guilty of this because when I get scam calls, me being the smart aleck that I am, I like to play around with them and who is this, and tell them I'm going to report them, etc. The point of these robocalls is to record your voice. They're collecting your voice, hearing what you say, and then they might bring it to a call center to pick up the call, or but they might use AI to record you. The more you say, the more information they get on your voice. And then they might use your voice to create a voice for a spam call or for other things. So again, this is they mentioned the ghost tax preparer here. And that's kind of scary. If someone just, a robocaller calls you, I'm going to change what I'm doing now. Anybody calls for a robocall, I'm just hanging up. It's not worth it. They don't know you. They don't have the time to have an actual person call you. I would just hang up, especially if they're recording your voice, and that's scary. So ghost tax preparers, these are the ones, they take your tax documents, and sorry, I clicked on that, didn't mean to. Again, this is a much larger article about that. They require a cash payment up front. They might claim fake deductions. They direct refunds into their own bank account. So I am seeing cases where even legitimate companies like H&R Block or others, and who knows, unless you really get into it, what actually happened. But there are people within these larger companies that don't do things right. And it's not just H&R Block. I'm going to talk today about a bookkeeper and tax preparer that harmed a lot of their clients. So again, make sure if it smells funny, if it doesn't smell right, you're probably the one getting scammed. And if the bookkeeper messes up your return and you get too large a refund or whatever, guess who's on the hook? you are as a taxpayer. So, so they work to verify calls and follow up on this, make sure that they're detecting trends in scam calls. So we're going to move a little bit into, really, like I said, there's just so much. This is actually an article. The next one is actually an article from the Los Angeles Times, talking about a new mansion tax in LA. So this is supposed to be any property sale over $5 million. So you'd think, okay, this is just targeting mansions. Well, not so much. It's all property. So if you have apartment complexes, condos. I mean, if you have a large property that normally exchanges hands, they are now levying an additional 4% charge on all property sales over 5 million. So and then 5.5 on all sales over 10 million. So sounds good. It's actually raised a lot of money. This happened back in 2022, or started in 2022, and of last year they've collected roughly 250 million to help the homeless, help the poor, the indigent. The problem is, what have they done to the market? It's essentially killed it. It's dropped throughout California as people move away from the state, and that's the general trend. But across the state, they've seen drops of 24, 28, 29% in areas right around LA. But in LA itself, they've had a drop in sales of 68%. And that's the problem, is when you have wealthier people, they'll just rent out the home. They'll do something else with it. They don't need to sell it, rather than give an extra few $100,000 to the government. And that's the problem when you just drive up home prices. I just spoke to someone the other day who has a home in Riverside County, 1.5 million. I look it up. It's a nice home. It's $1 million plus home. It used to be $500,000 home, but now with prices going through the roof, he might lose his home because he just can't afford it. And that's the problem, is when you have enough. It's not just in LA. That's just a symptom of the much bigger problem. But you have across the country what's required to purchase a home. And this is an article from Red State. I tried to go to the original article and couldn't reach it. Again, the links weren't working for it. But you have the cost of purchasing home, and the affordability of homes is going up. So where it used to be, I believe, 6 states in 2020 where you needed 100,000 or more to purchase the median home, now that's up to 22 states. And we're going to dive back into this by coming up on another break, and we'll be back shortly. Welcome back, everybody. I was just wrapping up about talking about how the differences in homes, and this is an article from Red State. To be fair, this article is hyper partisan. Tried to get to the original article and just couldn't. But the information in here, I think, is very important. That again, talking about the drastic rise in housing prices. That in 22 states now you need, and this is the original article is from Bankrate.com, and for some reason the link just isn't working. But again, the list of states, originally it was California, Hawaii, District of Columbia, Massachusetts, Washington are the 5 highest states. Then it rounds out in other states where the average home, this is for the median home, and they just looked at affordability of homes, and so they estimate that you need over 110,000 in Arizona, 150 for Colorado, 119 for Connecticut, Florida 114. You would think Florida, but with all the people moving there, it's driven up housing prices. Idaho's 114, 10 years ago, or Idaho was dirt cheap. Maine was 102, Maryland 108, Montana 131, Nevada is 111. I think it's actually higher now because I guess it depends where you are in Arizona too. But New Hampshire 130, 152 for New Jersey, 148 for New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, Texas. Texas is right at 100,000. Utah is more expensive at 133. Virginia and Vermont round out. So again, it's becoming more and more common. And the hard part is it's going to affect the younger generations more by not being able to purchase a home. So what I'm going to focus on is the stress of filing tax returns. And I'm going to share an article with you. And this is from a local news station again, Local 10. So this is an accountant that was ripping his clients off, which is scary. So this is Broward, Florida. I have to have that right. So again, they have more victims out there that they haven't found. This gentleman, Mr. He's an accountant, Jose Cos, at Cos Bookkeeping and Accounting. So one of the things and big problems here is there was some funny things going on. He would tell people you don't owe anything, but you're not getting a refund, but you don't owe anything. And these were two fairly, more higher end tax returns. And then he would, again, people wouldn't check the actual return. They would trust him. He was very friendly, charismatic. He set up a good relationship. But again, you always want to see the documents. You should always, always, always review your return. And, I was doing a national podcast with a financial advisor, and I told him, you should always review your return. He goes, well, I don't do that. And he was working with financial advisors across the country, very good at his profession. But when I told him you have to look at your own return, you're responsible for it, you sign on it. You can't just trust your CPA accountant. You should know what's on your tax return. And the problem is he would change the documents to get a tax refund, and then he would even go so far as to change, he would have them write checks, and he would change the name on the checks from the IRS to his office and go cash those checks. So there's at least 22 victims out there. Mr. Koss has been arrested, and this is kind of how it came to be, is that people started posting on Facebook, hey, there's a scam bookkeeper out there. And then other people said, hey, this guy's ripped me off too. I trusted him, but he was my friend. And again, this one guy discovered it because he went to apply for an American Express and then found out there was a $96,000 delinquency on a business card that he didn't set up. So again, he's taking their personal information and ripping them off. And again, Facebook, post, for a local site or whatever, warn people, check your transcripts with the IRS and reach out to this detective that's prosecuting the case. Again, he would just cross out the IRS, right? Bookkeeping on their checks. And so they actually found these checks. Here's the biggest thing. He had a prior history, criminal history for embezzlement. He'd already been convicted and served time. In 2010, he was indicted for embezzlement, pled guilty in 2012. And so the problem is that all the people that trusted him are left with the mess with the IRS. And then, again, there were many returns that were never filed. And he's got to straighten all this out while dealing with American Express and this $100,000 balance. Again, because these are non-violent fines, even or crimes, even though he wants them to go away for a very long time, might not happen because again, it's financial crime. There's no violence used. White-collar crimes, I think, should have longer sentences, especially with the damage they do to people. Again, it can be extremely damaging, and that stresses people out. How do you know who to deal with, who to go to? Number one, look someone up. Check their history out. I don't know how long he's been doing this, but it's again, there are some warning signs. So I'm going to go through some of these things to help people out. And so we have typically, the people being stressed out by the IRS and filing their tax returns has been in pretty much every comic strip. It's been in so many different TV series, sitcoms. It's like a running joke. The IRS comes, people are pulling their hair out and freaking out, and one person gets stuck with it, and they're sitting there banging their head against the wall, trying to figure out how to get their tax returns done. So I came across an interesting article. You could say it's funny. Not to pick on Gen-Zers, but we're going to pick on them a little bit. So this is from CNBC, Make It, and this is it means to be helpful here. But they did an online survey. Don't know how reliable those are, but it said 25% of Gen-Zers say they'll need a therapist to deal with the tax filing stress. And this article talks about how to make it easier. So I don't think that's true for adults overall, that they'll need to talk to a therapist. But dealing with taxes isn't something we prepare people for. And again, we should. It's one of those things that should be taught in college or in high school as a life skill. There's plenty of other things that should be taught. We need, again, I'm a huge advocate for we should have some kind of financial literacy class in high school to teach people, young adults financial literacy, how to handle a bank account. Again, the list is long, but financial literacy, I think, is something that's neglected quite a bit. So here's the article, and I thought this is a pretty good article talking about the strike. 1 in 4 say they need a therapist. 54% said filing taxes either brought them to tears in the past or expected to this year. It is frustrating. I have adult children, and again, the first year or so, I was surprised by how little they knew about filing taxes, and their dad's a tax attorney. Like, ask me. And I have one that's still dragging his feet on filing an extension because he doesn't have all of his information yet. We have to pull his transcripts to get it. I told him what to do, and I told him, okay, here's how you do it, and then he's just dragging his feet. So don't be surprised if you need to help. If you have adult children or people turning 16, 17, 18 that have just started working, if they've made enough income, they might have to file a tax return. And so educating the younger generation on taxes is very helpful. And that's part of what I do, is to not just educate one generation, but all generations on what to expect, how to handle your taxes, and how to do this with confidence. So we're going to run through some of the suggestions here in the article, but I've got a list of things, and a lot of this is stuff that I've said in part, but I felt it would be helpful to someone out there to have it in one place, in one show, and how to prepare and deal with tax season without all of the stress that's surrounding it. So again, they have other articles here attached to this. 4 red flags on an IRS tax audit, how to avoid the audit lottery according to the pros. That's a great article. I clicked on that, was looking through that myself. And so again, there's other articles and great information through this, which is why I'm sharing it. feel free to grab the article, and I will have the links attached to the show when it gets posted on our YouTube channel as well. So first step is, they kind of do a checklist. And this isn't just for Gen Z. This is for everybody. And first of all, and this is kind of my little list goes right along with this, be prepared. Collect your tax documents, put them in a folder, set them aside. Anything that comes electronically, save and you'll either put in a folder on your computer, but again, that makes it vulnerable to hackers. You might want to just print it out and keep a paper copy on hand. And there's plenty of other things that come through. So W-2, if you were working as a W-2 employee, they're withholding taxes from your check. And if you don't know the difference between a W-2 and a 1099, I believe I've done an entire show on it. But again, we can absolutely review that. If you have questions, give us a call. 520-485-7371 or guardiantaxlaw.com. We will explain to you the difference. If you don't know, we can review your pay stub and tell you very quickly if it's a 1099 or W-2. Again, we're a law firm. You have full privacy rights and attorney-client privilege. So 1099 interest from your banks is another form you could receive. From investing, and it says roughly 50% of Generation Z investors are using cryptocurrency. A lot of older generation, they don't want to deal with it, don't want to touch it. It's a new thing. And there are people making lots of money off of it. It's up right now. It was down before. So it can be more volatile, but that also can create more opportunities for gains. It is not invisible to regulators. So this says that people think that it's invisible. It's not. There are many ways IRS knows about it. Any cryptocurrency that is not being reported to the IRS is probably a scam, and you're going to lose all your money anyway. I have seen those as well. You should get a 1099 MISC from any kind of investment like that if you're in 600 or more in the last year. Now, that's not overall. If I started with $2,000 and I ended up with $2,400, but you made all kinds of trades in between, they're going to show that. They're going to show 600 in any transaction or cumulative transactions. So they're going to see all the gains. It's going to be reported to them. You need to take that transaction history and report it. So you can get those from them. They recommend using CoinTrack or Coinly to help track, software tools to help track crypto transactions. It can be very hard to put those into dollars, etc. But again, that information will all be reported. So here's some facts from the IRS on crypto transactions as well. If you're paying college tuition, there's education-related tax credits. It doesn't include student loans. And then there's a different form for that, 1098E. So if you're getting different kinds of forms, this is where your tax return can be a little more complicated. When is the tax deadline? It's April 15th is tax day. And this year it falls on the 15th because it's on a Monday. But easy rule of thumb, if a filing deadline falls on a weekend, the deadline is always the next Monday. So if we skip ahead here, next deadline is September 15th. It falls on a Sunday. And this is for corporation filing deadline. So the deadline is going to be the 16th. If the 15th happens to fall on a Saturday, then it'll be the 17th. So it's going to be the 15th, 16th, or 17th, whichever business day is sooner. So I just think it's the 15th. If it falls on the weekend, it's the next Monday as well. So good information here. It kind of introduces the topic that I want to talk about. And then, so we talked about being prepared. when you have all the tax documents you need, and you've saved those, and you have your information set aside. So for people that are self-employed, having your bookkeeping done is huge. And they make it so easy now if you're using the right programs. There are programs, QuickBooks, whatever, will go and take all your information from a bank account and just put it in there, and then you just have to go and adjust it. Takes a little bit of time, but if you don't want to hire a bookkeeper, you can do the basic footwork on your own and then take it to a CPA and bookkeeper, and it can get cleaned up and it can give you the information you need. So develop a relationship with a bookkeeper, get some free advice, use them when it's outside of your control. So that's a big thing is I spoke to someone yesterday and they were looking to do an offer in compromise with the Franchise Tax Board in California. And they didn't qualify. And I told him that. And he had already set up a hardship status for himself. And I said, okay, well, you're familiar with doing this. I mean, do you have any problem setting this up? Do you think you need us to help you? And he said, no, I think I have it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But he knew he had already done the hardship status. He felt comfortable with that. Most people don't. But to do an offer in compromises, he needed, or consider that he needed expert advice. So that's where we came in, gave him the expert advice on whether or not that was a good option for him. So if you feel comfortable, the more comfortable you feel, you can do a lot of this on your own. But the more complicated it gets, that's why you should have someone that you know, either a family relative or someone you trust, or reach out to someone or a couple preparers or accountants and get a couple opinions. Because this is where I see a lot of problems when things are different. Having a good professional can make all the difference. So when you sell a home, or when you're going through college, making sure you get those credits, and you can go to H&R Block, you can go to Liberty Tax, Jackson Hewitt, one of those easier things, but don't trust them. Take that return and get it reviewed. And you might have to pay a charge to get it reviewed, but if you're missing credits, it's a good way to find out if you should be saving a lot more money. So we're coming up on our last break for the day. And I just wanted to welcome, I did welcome everybody in the beginning, but I want to thank you for watching again. Live or on rebroadcast. If you think this is helpful for you, share this information, link it to other people and let them know, hey, this has been helpful for me. And you can always go to our YouTube channel and look through the old shows and find something that answers your questions. Welcome back, everybody. Had a slight technical issue there, but I want to kind of continue with some of these recommendations. So first of all, one was be prepared, have your documents together, know where you've worked, save those documents, and have kind of like a checklist. This is what I've received. This is what is still left over. Number two, have a good connection to tax professionals. So how do you find a good professional? So this is where doing reviews, checking reviews, talking to different people is very important. And getting a referral from someone that has a good experience with a tax preparer is very key. So don't be afraid, and don't be afraid to get a second opinion. So how do you connect with that? I mean, do you just look them up on Google? So you check out their Google reviews, Yelp reviews, like this one gentleman with that was ripping Jose Cos, that was ripping people off. There were negative reviews on Facebook. So there was some information out there. Not everybody caught it. But if someone's scamming people, you're usually not the first person they've done this to. And that's the truth of it. Sometimes you do get blindsided, but there's usually some warning signs. They're playing funny games. They're not having the refunds go directly to your account. So we talked a lot about these warning signs, things to be concerned about. And if you don't know, this is where experience and working with different tax professionals can help you. So that's why you should always check out two, maybe even three, if you want to make sure you feel comfortable with who's going to prepare your taxes. Now, right now is not the time to go and form a relationship with a new CPA or a tax preparer. They're slammed. They're busy. They're all busy. They work like dogs through April 15th. Thank goodness I don't prepare returns. Once April 15th hits, they usually take a couple of weeks to a month off and decompress because they've worked so hard through this and they deserve it. But when they come back, mid May or so, that's when it's a good idea to reach out, talk to some tax professionals, have them review your return if you think there were issues. And I see things pop up all the time where people's refunds were misdirected, someone ripped them off, or they just didn't understand. A lot of times they just didn't understand the process. But if they can't explain it to you, go get a second opinion. And I think in most cases you should probably have someone else in your pocket to bounce ideas off. Hey, does this sound right? And if it really just doesn't sound right, then you can think into it more. So you can always go to a network of professionals. When I refer CPAs out, I've referred hundreds of referrals out to CPAs. And if I have CPAs that aren't responsive, I stop referring them business. And I send, and if I have CPAs that are more responsive, that are jump on cases and take care of them, those are the ones I send more referrals to over time. And so we have a good list of excellent CPAs. And like I said, we have business networks, where we can refer business across the country. And it's all about making sure you have good relationships. So if you work with your CPA, it's good to know them. You should, over time, form a relationship with them, but that should not prevent you from going and getting good information from other people. Number 3, and I have 5 things here, is check your account with the IRS. You can go to irs.gov. If you don't mind, you have to do the face scan. And if you're concerned about Big Brother, that option might not be one for you. And honestly, I don't trust the government as far as I can throw them. But if you're not afraid of that, get on irs.gov, set up an account so you have quick and easy access to your tax account. And you can see what's going on. You can pull your own transcripts and check them periodically. Whenever people ask me a question about, I have a client that asked me a question, I go straight to the transcript to answer. Has my return process, have I gotten a refund yet? Was my refund applied to another tax year? I can answer a lot of these questions just by pulling the transcripts. And again, they made it a lot easier through, they have e-services programs where tax professionals can access this information very quickly. If you don't want to do the irs.gov account, there's other ways to do it. You can go call the IRS and have your transcripts mailed to you. Now, again, people say, but it's impossible to get through to the IRS. Not if you call at the right time. Call between 5 to 7 p.m., probably 5:30 to 6 is kind of the sweet spot. If you call too late at 6:30 or 7, they're going to be closing down. You might be able to get through. But they're open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. across the country, and it's by time zone. So you can get through to them up to 7 o'clock, and that's the best time to call. Mondays and Tuesdays are their worst days, but later on in the week, Wednesday through Friday, if you're calling between those times, you should be able to get through pretty easily. Check your transcripts. Make sure that you're getting your refund, that your returns are processed, and if there's any funny business going on, dig into it. Don't ignore it. Find out what's going on. If your preparer tells you don't worry about this, I would worry even more. Again, if you have questions, you can always give our office a call. I'm not afraid of being inundated with phone calls and mails because this is how we help people. This is a public service that we offer. Again, I'm not getting paid to do these shows either. It does create great content for us, but again, getting this information out and helping inform the public is a big part of what we do at Guardian Tax Law and here on the smartmoneyculture.tv. So check the source, go to the source, get your account with irs.gov, check your transcripts, and when you call the IRS and get through, you can always ask them, hey, what's going on here? If you need a tax professional check into something, you're just overwhelmed, you don't trust them, you don't feel comfortable calling the IRS, that's fine too. We charge nominal fees to go and just check someone's transcripts and get that information to you. So again, that's something that we can do. It's usually a flat fee of $1,500, and we can give you a thorough account of your case. And there are plenty of other companies that will do that. Hey, I just want to know what's going on. And you can pull that information fairly quickly through a third-party company. But make sure they're not just trying to sell you and push you onto something more. There's a lot of, unfortunately, when you call too many companies, you get put into a high-pressure sales situation. Say, I didn't call for this. Click, hang up, and call someone else that's going to give you good advice, help you without trying to force you into something you don't want or don't need. Trust but verify. So one of the key things from that article that I highlighted about Jose Cas and his embezzlement, and people felt like he was their friend. That's what scammers do, is they try to develop a rapport, a relationship with you, and if you have a relationship, you're going to be a lot less likely less likely to verify and double check. So this guy had already been convicted for embezzlement. Who knew? I bet you if you did a search, you'd find it. If you are looking into someone, Google them. Check their online reviews. Check what other people are saying about them, not just on their site, but other sites as well. And again, do I have some bad Google reviews? I'm sure I do. I have people that are unhappy with me. I did everything right, took care of their case, and yeah, every now and then there's a problem. And you know what? I know that we do excellent work and that the vast majority of our reviews are glowing. So I'm not going to worry about the few bad voices, but you should read the good and the bad. When I'm checking out a product, I jump to the one-star reviews. Do they sound like they know what they're talking about, or they're just someone that's going to complain no matter what? And I review those for a while, and then go to how many one stars. If there's just a few one stars versus a ton of 5 stars, if this is just basic checking out reviews, checking out someone. If they're telling you something that it doesn't sound right, get a second opinion. When I tell people something that's very different from other companies, I cite the source. I tell them this is where you can find the information. I'm going to tell you exactly what's from the IRM. Big things is, I've talked about this at length, is how many tax returns do you have to file? A lot of people don't believe me when it says 6 years. I'm like, well, here's the IRM citation. Don't believe me, go directly to the source. This is where you can read it and find out for yourself. Most people don't want to read the IRM, it's just horrible. But lastly, get professional help and advice when your tax return becomes more complicated. So when you have something new, you sell a home, you move, talk to somebody. What should I do? How should I do this? Number one thing that I've seen, and I just seen this again, when you move out of a high tax state, New York, California, New Jersey, Illinois, you might want to file a closing return. In most cases, I would. So I was talking to someone, that was this last week. California was coming after him. They had filed multiple years of filing enforcements, so he didn't file because he left the state. They assumed he had income, and he was sending letters and documents back and forth to him, so they changed some things, but that's not how they operate. They want to see on the tax return. They know their information is bogus. But the way to address it is to file original returns. And your last return should be a non-resident return. So when you move and you leave a state, it's always good to file a non-resident return with the prior state, even though you don't have a filing requirement to do so. But you're telling the state, hey, I'm gone, don't bug me anymore. I was here for 2 months out of the year, 3, 4, whatever, 6 months, but now I'm in this other state. You'll need to pay taxes on the time that you were in that state, or if it's low enough, you might not owe any taxes, but you're still informing the state, I'm gone. This is my non-resident return. I am now in a different state. So if they do move to file tax returns on you because you're not filing in that state anymore, you've already given them notice. They already know that you're not there, and then you can hold their feet to the fire. So a lot of issues can be avoided by having good tax professionals as a friend. And one final plug here. If you're decent at math, you don't have to be a calculus whiz or anything like that. Learning and becoming a tax preparer, an accountant, CPA, there's not enough kids or younger generations going into that. There's a dearth or a lack of people going through the colleges to become CPAs and accountants. It doesn't sound like a glorious thing. You'll be dealing with numbers, but you'll be helping people in real ways. And then you can become the family expert. You can inform yourself, educate yourself, and become that expert. But again, you're never going to be an expert in anything. So that's why, again, you have a tax attorney in your pocket. Here at Guardian Tax Law, you have a tax law firm that you can call, and we answer basic questions all the time. 520-485-7371, or call us or reach out to us through Guardian Tax Law. You can email us at info@guardiantaxlaw.com. And we can take the stress out of this. A lot of times we just refer people to excellent CPAs. This is what you need. We're going to check in on you, make sure you connected with them, and that everything's taken care of. And we help people take the stress out of filing and preparing taxes. It shouldn't be, I'm going to pull my hair out. It shouldn't be, I'm going to lose sleep over this or need therapy for this. But having good resources is so important. And too often we're disconnected. We don't know who can really help us. So it's a lot of success. One of the biggest indicators of success in life is not what you know, but who you know, because you're never going to know everything. I was watching a show with my wife last night, and it was a History Channel, but it's actually true crime heists. So big bank heist, diamond center heist. Actually very interesting. And it was talking about the mob in the 70s, and he mentioned something. I go, oh, well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. And she looks at me, you're a history major. You didn't know that? There's so much to history. There's so much I don't know. But my biggest skill is knowing what I don't know, and then going to someone else to get that information, get that advice. I don't prepare returns for that same reason, but I work with excellent CPAs that I will call up and talk to on a regular basis, sometimes about my own taxes. So again, having those connections, having a good relationships, people that you can trust, but verify. If they tell you something, check on it with somebody else. And this can really help you not only have success, but avoid a lot of issues with the IRS. So again, if you have questions, reach out to us. I hope you have your tax returns filed. If not, get those extensions in. Extensions are very easy to file. If you're going to mail one, if you can't do it online for some reason, you can mail one. It just needs to be postmarked by April 15th. I would get it in sooner rather than later. And I hope everybody has a great day out there. And you had an informative session. So again, don't hesitate to go through our YouTube videos for prior shows. We're getting those posted with notes and links for all the articles cited and our shows as well. So again, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day out there and make this a stress-free tax season.